Recently, a viewer asked, I usually have white on my palette, but I see you don't. How do you lighten your colors without white paint? This question came from someone just getting started in watercolor who was used to painting in other mediums. Well, it's a great question, and in this video, I will explain why in watercolor we don't need white paint on our palette. That might sound strange if you're used to painting in acrylic or oil paints. You might be wondering, how do I paint highlights without white? How do I create a tint without white? Well, I'm here to break it down for you. Let's get started. Hi, welcome to my studio. My name is Kris. This channel is all about tools, tips, and tutorials for growing in watercolor. So let's start with the basics. Watercolor is all about transparency. The beauty of watercolor comes from its ability to let light shine through the paint, making colors feel luminous and fresh. Instead of layering opaque colors on top of each other, like you would with acrylic or oil paint, watercolor relies on the white of the paper to create light washes and highlights. Here you can see I'm painting a gradient from dark to light with just one color. As I add more water to the mix, the white of the paper is showing through the wash. I'm not using white paint. Watercolor artists must learn to use water to control how much of the white paper shines through. By diluting your colors with water, you can achieve lighter colors, which are called tints, without ever using white paint. Now let's contrast this with acrylic or oil painting. In these mediums, white paint is essential. When you want to lighten a color, you mix it with white. That's because acrylic and oil are opaque. The layers of paint cover whatever is underneath, including the white color of the canvas. In acrylics, for example, you mix white to get lighter tints of a color. Do you want pink? Mix red with white. Do you want a light green? Add white to green. You can't just dilute the paint with water and expect the same effect as with watercolor, because the opaque paint itself will cover the canvas completely. As you can see, opaque mediums like acrylic or oil work on a completely different color mixing paradigm than watercolor. Not only is white not necessary due to the unique properties of watercolor, it can even work against some of the most beautiful and admired qualities of this medium. That's right, in watercolor, using white paint can actually work against the medium's strengths. Most white paints used in watercolor are opaque and chalky. They contain titanium dioxide or zinc oxide. These pigments, when applied to a watercolor painting, can reduce the beautiful transparency that makes watercolor so unique. Here you can see the same watercolor wash, one with and one without titanium white added. Okay, so if I've convinced you that you don't really need white paint on your watercolor palette, that raises the question, but how do we create those important highlights in a watercolor painting? You have a couple options. Number one, you paint around those areas, being careful to retain the highlights in your early washes. This takes lots of concentration, some careful brush techniques, and a clear plan before you begin your first wash. Number two, you can use masking fluid that is applied to highlight areas and later is removed to reveal the white of the paper. I'm not a big fan of this approach, as it can lead to kind of stiff and unnatural looking highlights, but some people love this method. And number three, you can add a few highlights with opaque white gouache paint at the end of the painting. If you choose this approach, just remember it's best to use opaque white paint very sparingly. Use it with caution so you don't lose the vibrancy and transparency that make watercolor so special. So, to sum it up, you don't need white paint in watercolor because the paper is your white. Let the transparency of your washes and the brightness of your paper do the work. If you need to lighten a color, use more water, not white paint. Did you find this information to be helpful? If so, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more watercolor tips and tutorials. Also, I'm wondering, do you use white paint in watercolor? Let me know in the comments below. Also, which approach of the three mentioned above do you use to keep your highlights white and bright in watercolor? I'd love to know. If you would like to learn more about watercolor, check out my growing library of free and premium resources on my website at studio.krisdebruine.com. Thanks for watching, have a great day, and keep on growing in watercolor.